Hello, I'm your local Time Lord, and it has been too long. Welcome to another episode of You Want Me Wednesdays. It's back, people. Yes. It's a big topic, and I'm going to try to talk as simply as I can. Today's topic is identity, and specifically gender identity, because that has come up a lot, especially in my newsfeed and a lot of arguments that I've been in lately. I have been involved in the past week with 3 arguments, or at least 2 arguments, and then witnessing a lot of very, very hurtful comments on a video that I watched not so long ago. The video itself was published by BBC The Social, and it was of a non-binary person basically explaining to the world what non-binary meant, the term gender in a non-biological sense. It got a lot of support from people who are generally more accepting of the non-binary community, but then got a lot of hate from people who didn't really understand. And I just want to clarify that whilst your opinion is incredibly valid, hate is not wanted. And that is why I'm staying incredibly unbiased, because opinions from both parties are very much valid and valued, and I think hate is just irrelevant in every sense. So I've had arguments with 2 parties, separate events, and something has come about apparent to me that people are afraid of social evolution, especially when it comes to the change of identity. We've seen this a lot throughout history. 100 years ago, women were still campaigning for their very basic human rights to get out of the pit of second-class citizens. The fact that nowadays women are still having a problem with that. The Black Lives Matter movement is still a thing. The fact that racism is still a very massive problem in our society. Gay people and the LGBT community as a whole, it's seen as a joke to a lot of people because they don't really understand. It's just like there's an entire stigma around all of this. And gender identity is something which is constantly laughed at. It's got to stop. To put it quite plainly, why concern yourself with a matter as basic as this, when you could concern yourself with things like poverty, or war, or climate change, or, you know, the war against racism? Put your efforts towards something that should be focused on, instead of focusing on trying to oppress a group of people who are genuinely just trying to be themselves. Why should it matter to you how people identify? What business is it of yours? I do respect the fact that people can't fathom it, because it is quite difficult to understand, especially as we have all grown up in a society which has based the majority of gender on biological sex, because it was simpler that way. But the mind isn't simple, it's an incredibly complex organ. It doesn't work the way people want it to. Emotions, thought processes, and the way it works biologically proves that as a whole. Gender is a very complex and touchy subject to most. It really shouldn't be. The lesson here is, let people be themselves, don't oppress them, and if you disagree with that, you don't have to understand it, just accept that people think that way, accept that people know who they are, and move on with your life, and concern yourself with something that genuinely matters. In the argument that I had about 10 minutes ago, they constantly reiterated you're either a boy or a girl. Physically, that is correct, unless you're intersex. I still don't really know what intersex means. I really have to look that up. But I know that they're there and that they're valid. You see how easy that is for me? You just accept that they're a thing, and you move on. They were just so quick to defend their bigotry. And it just made me think, you guys are scared of social evolution, so really society hasn't changed. But then I realised it probably should have, and something which someone said, non-binary people won't be accepted because it's taken 100 years for women to be accepted. Well, there's the problem, and the fact that you as a person are not accepting the fact that non-binary people are a thing isn't really helping that. You, a woman, whose ancestors have been oppressed for thousands of years, is now oppressing another group of people. What do? I guess coming from, like, I'm non-binary. Surprise! I have seen so much online of people who just don't understand, just turn it into a joke or just insult because they are afraid that their ignorance is going to show, that they don't know anything about it and they're not prepared to learn about it. And they usually pass it off with words like, "You're so triggered," and, "Oh, I'm just going to identify as an Apache attack helicopter now." You're not really helping. I understand if the concept is incredibly hard to grasp, because it has taken me a couple years, actually, to fully understand the community as a whole. The fact that it's different for everybody, and it doesn't matter how you identify, really. Someone who has grown up in a very you're a boy or girl kind of household, it did take me a while to kind of move away from that and develop myself to be a bit more understanding. So, whilst I understand that the concept is very hard to grasp, you can do it eventually. And even if you don't want to, I just plead that you respect the fact that it's there, and you may not believe in it, but you should just, move on with your life. Let people be happy. Let people identify with whatever they want, because if it helps them feel more fulfilled in their life, if it helps them be themselves, who are we to take that right away from them? I'm not here claiming that there are like a bajillion genders. I don't want this video to be memed like all those other ones with the shut the fuck up sort of thing, or Filthy Frank coming across my face going, "You're stupid." I want to genuinely say that whilst I respect your opinion of you may not understand it, please respect the fact that there are people who genuinely believe in themselves and know in themselves that they are not a gender strictly connected to their biological sex, and just move on with your life, because it's not that hard to just leave them. And it's not that hard to just sit there and keep your insults to yourself. By insulting them, you are not helping with the oppression. Just because you believe you have free speech does not mean that free speech should be used for hate. And that goes for any community that you seem to have a problem with, whether it be for race, gender identity, sexual orientation, or just things that people like. If we all respected the fact that we all have different beliefs, and we just left it, the world would be such a nice place. And whilst that's a pipe dream and many people will laugh at me and, I don't know, call me triggered, it's a thing which I'm genuinely passionate about, and I'm fed up with seeing all this hate everywhere just because someone is slightly different from the norm. What is normality? Normality is a paradox. When it comes to people's pronouns, if you don't understand why they are those pronouns, respect the fact that they've asked. In our society, it's still frowned upon to be yourself. And whilst so many people are trying to do it, so many people are still trying to be oppressive because they are scared and they don't understand and they think it's weird. If you want to be the sort of person who is accepting and open-minded, you don't have to understand the thought process or what people genuinely feel. You just have to be empathetic. Think about how it feels to be them in a society which is trying to shove them into a box, and they're trying to break out of that and be themselves. And just do as they ask. Call them by any name that they ask you to call them. Use any pronoun. It really does not matter. As long as you try, it does not matter if you don't fully understand. Because they should just be able to live their life how they want, just as you would expect other people to respect your gender and pronoun. If you are cis, you know in your heart that you are the same gender as you were born biologically, and so automatically people will call you he or she. There is nothing wrong with that at all. All genders should have the chance to be represented and respected. But the fact that you expect others to call you he, she, and your name, you should do the exact same for non-binary people who ask to be called separate pronouns and separate names, which may confuse you, but just deal with it. And at the end of the day, the people who are non-binary, myself included, know themselves better than you do. And so you trying to tell me and other people that you know me better than I do is wrong. I'm not going to sit there and be told I am purely a girl, because in my head I know I'm not. And whilst you may not understand that, I do not care. It's none of your business, and I just ask for the same respect I give you for being cis. I give you for being a person. And that should go for every non-binary person you meet. For the people who don't really know what non-binary is an umbrella term for a person whose gender does not strictly match their biological sex. Gender is an identity of the mind, and whilst you may believe that it is to do with biological sex, which I respect, in the majority of people's opinion, it's not. It is something affected by the mind, how you feel truly deeply inside yourself, how you feel about yourself, and that should be respected. Kind of like religion. Because you don't have to believe in it to accept it exists, for it to be valid. You just see someone who believes, who is part of some form of religion, and you go, they're religious, and you move on with your life. That is the sort of rights that all humans should get for whatever identity that they use. I'm not asking for the world to suddenly snap into place, for everyone to go, hey, non-binary is a thing, because that's a pipe dream, that won't work. But I'm just asking for the people who genuinely have the belief that it's not real to at least look it up, research it, ask non-binary people, hey, how do you feel about this? And then make your opinion from there. And if your opinion is still, I don't believe this is a thing, at least accept other people do. And move on with your life. And concern yourself with something that is genuinely affecting you, because someone's identity isn't strictly hurting you unless they are abusing you for your own identity or something that you enjoy, or your preferences. It's not something that should be laughed at. It's not something that should be made into a joke, because oppression on any front is horrible. Some people go through more oppression than others, but the feeling of being oppressed and contained is still dreadful and terrible. And in this day and age, it should not be a thing. I don't care if you believe the world should not be PC. Maybe not to the extent that it is, but we should just accept that some people are the way they are and move on with our lives. Like I have accepted that some of you will never change your mind. I just want you to accept that there are people like us who genuinely know who we are now, and we're trying to be ourselves in a world where people are trying to put us in a box. I actually used this analogy. Please put your empathy hats on. That was gross, I know. Imagine you were born human, but you were born with brown eyes, into a society where people believe that people with brown eyes are, I don't know, dogs, for example. And people with other coloured eyes are just your average humans, or just a bajillion other animals. You, a person with brown eyes, is treated like a dog. You are fed dog food, you're kept in a crate or put in a dog bed, you're not allowed to eat human food, etc. You're taken for walks. You inside yourself know that you are human, but people see your brown eyes and automatically assume that you are a dog. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Very out of proportion analogy fits this situation perfectly. You try to break out of that box and you tell the world, I'm not a dog, I am a human. But all they see is your brown eyes and they assume you are wrong. And they think to themselves, we know better. Because we know, for some stupid reason, brown eyes mean that you're an animal, that you're something you are not, even though in your mind, you're human. When it comes to non-binary, it's the exact same. People look at you, the way that you have dressed all your life, the sex on your birth certificate. They ask you, are you male or female? Which you should reply with your sex. But if they ask if you're a boy or a girl, it's very difficult to answer that question when you're non-binary, because all they've seen is what you look like physically. And if you reply with neither, they'll just say, hey, you have brown eyes, you must be a dog, right? Another thing is, non-binary people wouldn't necessarily choose to be difficult, because if the world were more accepting, they wouldn't have to go through such shit. So the fact that they are still revealing to the world, which is filled with bigots who are so quick to defend their ignorance and insult people, that they are non-binary, that they aren't what's considered conventionally normal, that is bravery, and that proves that they are something which you may not understand, because they wouldn't just come out and say, hey, I'm not like you, knowing full well that they're going to get hate if it was wrong. So I plead, instead of just hearing crap memes and stupid things online, go educate yourself, go ask someone, then make up your mind. And if your opinion is still, I don't believe this is a thing, just do what everyone does with preferences or religion or like just beliefs of any kind. Accept that other people may not think the same as you and move on. And that is the same for non-binary people as well. If someone genuinely believes that you are making it up, whilst that may be incredibly, incredibly hurtful, you have to understand that we are now used to this way of thinking. We know who we are inside, and they might not understand it because it is incredibly complex. If they have taken the time to educate themselves and still give you the respect that you deserve, despite not quite understanding, respect them for the fact that they have tried. Respect other people's opinions as well, but that doesn't mean the people who don't understand should not try to educate themselves. Rant over, yay! I've actually been sitting on that one for a while. Past events have made me realise you gotta really do it. I'm actually procrastinating cleaning my room, because that's the best thing to do, and the cleaning my room was procrastinating doing my college work, so you can see. Oops. Fun fact actually, my cousin has decided that for my Christmas present she's going to pay for my official name change via deed poll, so I will be officially known as Blue sometime next year. And you can tell I'm a very happy bunny. My parents are not going to be very happy with it, but they're just going to have to deal with the fact that I'm trying to be myself. Hopefully they'll move on. If you like this video, please give it the like thingy, or the share thingy, or the subscribe thingy, and comment below your opinions. Even if they disagree with mine, because I do love a good debate, and I do think that sharing opinions, as long as they're respectful, so don't be insulting people, okay? That goes for both sides. I think opinions are very, very valid and valuable, and we should all share them. I'm out!